Everything Dwight built is starting to crumble. The alliances he trusted are breaking apart, and the ghosts of his past are coming for him. Tulsa King Season 3, Episode 7 isn't just another crime story. It's the moment where loyalty and survival go to war. The King of Tulsa stands on shaky ground, and every move could be his last. The episode opens with a strange quiet. The streets of Tulsa look normal, but there's a sense of tension in the air. Dwight walks into his bar, looking sharper and more focused than ever, but his eyes tell another story. They're tired of betrayal, tired of the constant fight for respect. The crew senses something is off. Tyson tries to lighten the mood, cracking a joke, but no one laughs. Even the music feels heavy. It's that kind of silence that comes before everything falls apart. We see Dwight looking at an old photo, him, his daughter, and a few faces from his New York days. His hands tremble for just a second before he hides the photo back in his jacket. It's a quiet but powerful reminder that every choice he's made is chasing him. Meanwhile, Stacy is on the other side of town, working late at her office. She's reading through files, surveillance reports, and taped conversations that all lead to one man, Dwight Manfredi. She hesitates before making a call, her voice cold but unsure. "I think it's time," she says. The camera cuts back to Dwight, as if he somehow knows what's coming. Duh. Next scene shows Chickie in New York. He's having a heated conversation with one of his men about cleaning up the Tulsa mess. Chickie still can't stand the fact that Dwight is building his own empire outside their control. He slams his glass down, promising to end it once and for all. The dialogue is short but brutal, showing that Chickie isn't bluffing this time. The tension builds as he gives a simple order: send the message back in Tulsa. Dwight gets a mysterious text, no name, no number. Just a single line: "They're coming." His face hardens, and he finished his drink without a word. The weight of that moment hangs heavy. He knows exactly who's coming and why. The camera follows him as he walks out into the night. Rain starts to fall, the streets glow under the streetlights, and we can feel the storm that's about to hit. Episode 7 doesn't waste time with slow build-up. From the first few minutes, we're pulled into a world of quiet threats and unspoken fear. The writing focuses on tension rather than action, making every glance, every pause, feel like a loaded gun. Dwight's character is more human here, not the uncheckable mob boss, but a man who's running out of trust. Every move he makes feels deliberate, almost cautious, as if he's planning for the worst. By the end of this opening section, one thing becomes clear: peace is no longer an option. Dwight's empire has cracks forming everywhere. Stacy's investigation tightening, Chickie's revenge brewing, and his own crew's loyalty beginning to waver. The episode builds this low pressure beautifully, setting the stage for the chaos to come. You can almost feel that this calm won't last long, and when it breaks, Tulsa will never be the same again. The storm begins with whispers. Word spreads fast across Tulsa's underworld. Someone's putting pressure on Dwight's operations. Trucks that should have arrived at his bar never make it. His money runners go missing, and one of his men ends up in the hospital after a brutal ambush. The tension that started as silence now turns into chaos. Dwight knows this isn't a random attack. It's a message from Chickie, a reminder that New York hasn't forgotten who once wore the crown. Dwight gathers his closest men in the back room of the bar. The lights are dim, the air thick with cigarette smoke and mistrust. Tyson, Bodie, and a few new faces sit around the table, waiting for Dwight to speak. When he finally does, his voice is low but sharp, the kind of calm that only comes before something violent. He tells them they've been compromised. Someone inside the circle has been feeding information to their enemies. Everyone looks at each other, searching for guilt in the eyes around them. The silence is louder than any gunshot. Tyson swears he's clean. Bodie looks nervous, and one of the new guys avoids eye contact. Dwight's stare lands on him for a long second. He doesn't say anything, but the message is clear: trust is earned, not given. The meeting ends with no answers, just more doubt. Outside, rain continues to fall as Dwight lights a cigarette, staring into the darkness like he's trying to find his next move written in the night sky. Meanwhile, Stacy is deep into her investigation. She's pieced together enough evidence to bring Dwight in, but something doesn't add up. The files make him look like a monster, but the person she once knew didn't fit that image. She starts digging deeper, rewatching footage, replaying phone calls, and noticing small inconsistencies. The law wants Dwight taken down, but Stacy's instincts tell her there's a bigger game being played, one that even she might be caught in. Her moral struggle becomes one of the strongest subplots in the episode. She's torn between justice and the haunting feeling that Dwight might not be the true villain here. As the night unfolds, Chickie's men arrive in Tulsa. We don't see their faces clearly, just black cars, dark coats, and the echo of heavy footsteps. They move like shadows through the city, hitting Dwight's weak points one by one. A warehouse burns down. One of Dwight's informants disappears. The tension keeps building, and Dwight finally realizes he's fighting a war on two fronts, the mob from New York and the law closing in from the inside. Midway through the episode, there's a powerful scene where Dwight visits Mitch's bar, one of the few safe places left. The two old friends share a drink, talking about loyalty, aging, and the weight of regret. Mitch warns him that power has a price and that maybe it's time to walk away before it's too late. Dwight gives a small laugh, not out of humor but disbelief. "You can't walk away from who you are, Mitch," he says. That line hits like a confession, a truth that defines his entire life. The rising conflict isn't just about enemies outside, it's the inner war inside Dwight's head. He's realizing that every step he takes forward pulls him further into the darkness he once tried to escape. The episode uses this tension masterfully. Every sound, every pause in dialogue feels like it's carrying a hidden threat. Even moments of quiet, like Dwight sitting alone in his car, watching the rain, feel heavy with meaning. By the final minutes of this section, Dwight's world is unraveling fast. His crew is scared, his allies are fading, and his enemies are circling like wolves. Yet, through it all, Dwight remains composed, almost too calm. There's a scene where he looks at himself in the mirror and mutters under his breath, "They think I'm done." The reflection stares back, tired but unbroken. You can feel that something inside him has shifted. He's no longer just defending his empire, he's preparing to strike back. The rising conflict ends with a chilling sequence. Dwight's car explodes just seconds after he steps out of it. Flames rise into the night, lighting up the street. People scream, sirens flare, and Dwight watches in silence, the reflection of the fire dancing in his eyes. The message is clear. They want him gone. But what they don't realize is that they've just woken the old version of Dwight Manfredi, the one who built his name in blood, the one who never loses a war. This section sets the stage for what's coming next, a brutal turning point where Dwight stops running and starts hunting. Episode 7 doesn't just raise the stakes, it flips the board completely. The king isn't falling quietly. He's just getting ready to reclaim his throne. The fire still burns in the distance when Dwight walks away from the wreckage of his car. The flames flicker across his face, turning his calm expression into something colder, harder. That explosion wasn't just an attack, it was a declaration of war. And Dwight Manfredi isn't the kind of man who runs from war. He's the kind of man who finishes it. This moment marks the exact point where the hunted becomes the hunter. The next morning, Tulsa wakes to headlines about the mysterious explosion downtown. The police swarm the scene, and Stacy is there among them. She knows it was meant for Dwight, but something in her gut twists. This is bigger than a mob feud. She finds fragments of a device, advanced and professional. This wasn't street-level work. Someone with serious resources is moving pieces behind the scenes. As she looks up from the ashes, she spots Dwight standing across the street, hidden under a black cap, watching her. Their eyes meet for a brief second before he disappears into the crowd. It's a haunting image to people who once trusted each other, now standing on opposite sides of a storm neither can control. Dwight's next move is pure old-school strategy. He calls a meeting at an abandoned motel outside the city, far from prying eyes. The remaining members of his crew gather there: Tyson, Bodie, and two others who still seem loyal. Dwight doesn't yell or curse. He speaks in that quiet, steady tone that makes everyone lean in. "They think I'm finished," he says. "They just reminded me who I used to be." The room goes silent. That line hits everyone differently: fear for some, respect for others. He lays out his plan: precise, ruthless, efficient. He's done playing defense. They'll strike back, but smartly. Not with bullets, but with information. He knows Chickie's crew is using a local contact to track his movements. Dwight intends to flip that contact and feed false intel back to New York. "We make them chase ghosts while we clean house here," he says. It's the kind of plan that shows why he was once feared in the streets of New York: strategic, patient, and deadly. As his crew moves out, the show shifts its focus to Chickie. In New York, he's losing his temper. He expected Dwight to be ashes by now, but instead, he's hearing whispers that Dwight's regrouping. Chickie's paranoia starts eating him alive. He lashed out at his own men, suspecting betrayal at every corner. The dialogue here is sharp, the kind of tense back and forth that reveals how desperation turns powerful men into their own enemies. "You think he's smarter than me?" Chickie screams, slamming his fist on the desk. The silence that follows answers the question for him. Back in Tulsa, Dwight starts reconnecting with old contacts. One of them is Armand, a former ally who vanished seasons ago after double-crossing him. Their reunion is one of the episode's most powerful moments. Armand greets Dwight with his gun drawn, expecting payback. But Dwight just stands there unarmed and says, "If I wanted you dead, you'd already be buried." That line alone shifts the whole energy of the scene. They sit down, two men with too much history between them. Dwight doesn't ask for forgiveness, he asks for help. "You know how this game ends," he tells Armand. "You either play smart or you die loud." The camera lingers on Armand's face as he finally lowers his gun, knowing he's been pulled back into a war he tried to forget. Meanwhile, Stacy's investigation takes a sharp turn. She discovers that the evidence against Dwight has been manipulated. Someone inside her department is feeding Chickie's people information. The realization shakes her, not just because of the corruption, but because it means Dwight was right all along. For the first time, she questions who the real criminals are. Her moral compass spins, caught between her duty and her growing belief that Dwight might be the only one fighting the truth. The tension peaks when Dwight sets his trap. Using the false information he planted, he lures Chickie's men to a warehouse that's supposedly his safe house. What they find instead is an empty space rigged with surveillance cameras. Dwight watches from a distance, recording every face. When the ambush fails, Chickie's men realize they've been played. One of them, desperate and furious, calls Chickie to admit they've been tricked. Dwight's plan worked perfectly. He's regained control. But just when it seems he's back on top, the episode throws its biggest curveball yet. As Dwight drives away from the warehouse, his phone rings. It's an unknown number. He answers, expecting another threat. Instead, a woman's voice speaks softly. "It's your daughter." The music drops, and Dwight's grip tightens on the wheel. She tells him she's been followed, that people are watching her, and that she's scared. The entire tone shifts. The personal stakes just exploded. Dwight's enemies aren't just coming for him anymore. They're coming for his blood. The camera closes in on Dwight's face, and for the first time in a long while, fear flashes in his eyes. Not for himself, but for the one person he still loves. The king has been forced into the most dangerous position of all, protecting family while fighting an empire. The episode ends this section with a chilling final image: Dwight standing outside his bar, phone still in hand, rain pouring down, whispering to himself. They made it personal. That's the turning point, the moment where every line between vengeance, loyalty, and love blurs into one unstoppable force. From here on, Dwight isn't just surviving the war. He's declaring one. The night settles over Tulsa like a blanket of smoke, quiet, heavy, and full of secrets. Dwight stands alone outside his bar, phone still warm in his hand, his daughter's voice echoing in his mind. For the first time, the mighty Tulsa King looks uncertain. He's faced bullets, betrayal, and prison walls, but nothing cuts deeper than the thought of his family in danger. That call changes everything. What was once a power struggle becomes personal, raw, and unstoppable. The war he's about to start isn't about money or control anymore. It's about blood. The next sequence unfolds with a steady, burning tension. Dwight drives through the rain, headlights cutting across empty streets as his thoughts race. Every word from his daughter replays in fragments. They're watching me. I'm scared. He grips the steering wheel so tight his knuckles turn white. He's not going to wait for the next attack. He's going to end it tonight. This is where Dwight becomes the version of himself the streets of New York still whisper about: cold, calculated, and merciless. He gathers his crew for one final move. Tyson and Bodie meet him in an old mechanic's garage, a fitting setting for a man rebuilding his empire one last time. The camera captures the exhaustion on their faces, but there's also fire in their eyes. Dwight lays out the plan. They took my piece. Now I'll take their power. It's not a loud speech, just a simple truth delivered with the weight of a man who has nothing left to lose. Everyone in the room knows this could be their last night. While Dwight prepares for his strike, Stacy uncovers the final piece of the puzzle. The mole inside her department, Detective Harris, has been feeding Chickie's crew information for months. When she confronts him, he smirks, saying she doesn't understand how deep it goes. Before she can arrest him, he pulls a gun. The scene explodes with chaos, glass shatters, shots echo through the hallways, and Stacy dives for cover. She barely escapes with a wound in her arm, clutching the stolen evidence drive as she flees into the night. Her storyline collides with Dwight's just as the storm begins. The climax hits its peak when Dwight's crew ambushes Chickie's men at the edge of the Tulsa rail yard. It's cinematic perfection, the sound of thunder mixing with gunfire, sparks flying as bullets ricochet off metal containers. Dwight moves like a ghost through the chaos, silent but deadly. Every shot he takes is precise, controlled. This isn't revenge, it's justice in his own language. Chickie's right-hand man, Vince, tries to escape, but Dwight corners him between two freight cars. Tell Chickie, Dwight says, his voice cold and steady, if he wants my city, he'll have to come get it himself. Then, without hesitation, he walks away as the train's horn blares, drowning out Vince's cries. Meanwhile, Stacy drives across town, bleeding and desperate. She calls Dwight, her voice breaking as she says, I have proof. It's all connected. You were set up. Dwight doesn't speak for a moment, the sound of rain hitting his windshield filling the silence. When he finally answers, his tone softens. Then it's time to end it, he says, and hangs up. That single line feels like a full circle moment. The calm before his final reckoning. As dawn breaks, Chickie himself arrives in Tulsa, furious and ready to finish what he started. He storms into one of his safe houses, only to find Dwight already waiting for him. No guns drawn, no backup, just two old gangsters face to face after years of bad blood. The scene is tense, quiet, almost respectful. Dwight tells Chickie that their war is pointless, that the world they built is already dying. Chickie laughs, calling him soft, accusing him of losing his edge. Dwight steps closer, his eyes dark but steady. You think mercy makes me weak, he says. It's the only thing that's kept me human. Chickie lunges, but Dwight moves first, one clean, brutal strike. It's quick, efficient, and final. Chickie falls, gasping, realizing too late that Dwight didn't just outfight him, he outlived him. The camera lingers on Dwight's face, lit by the rising sun. There's no victory there, just exhaustion, the kind that comes when a man wins everything but feels nothing. Outside, sirens wail in the distance. Stacy's voice echoes from a phone message, confirming the evidence is in federal hands. The corruption in Tulsa and New York will be exposed. Dwight should feel free, but he doesn't. Freedom costs too much when it's paid in blood. He looks at the sky, whispering quietly, it's over. but his expression says otherwise. He knows that in his world, nothing is ever truly over. The final scene of the episode fades slowly. Dwight sitting at his bar, the same one where it all began. The place is half empty, the city outside eerily calm. He pours a drink, raises it to no one in particular, and mutters, "To the throne." The camera pulls back as the light from the sunrise spills through the windows. The king of Tulsa remains standing, scarred, alone, but undefeated. That's the climax, brutal, emotional, and unflinching. The episode doesn't end with a victory cheer, but with the haunting silence of survival. Dwight may have reclaimed his city, but the cost of the crown has never been higher.